Hello traders, this is Rich from Tradesight. This is the market preview for Tuesday, June 17th, 2014. We had kind of a flattish day here where the ES and the NQ didn't do too much. The Dow futures were up 5 on the day, which essentially is kind of a nothing. I think what you really want to do on a day like this, though, is take a look at the market internals and see what they have to tell us to see if there's anything happening internally. And there's really not much there either. The advanced declines were very modestly positive on both sides, but not really enough to move the needle either way. The bonds were higher on the day. The TLT was higher by 28 cents. And we saw a little bit of a retreat in gold and oil after probably a little bit of the weekend risk premium was built in with the current situations going on overseas. But let's move on and take a look at the major futures and see what they have to tell us. First up, here's a look at the ES. You can see that we really did nothing today, just kind of just grinding and measuring off the decline from late last week. Notable features are we did close again below the 10 EMA, so there's no reflex back to the upside. We are just kind of just hovering here below the 6 ace level and above the breakout from the previous high, which is quite a bit lower than here. So we can either drift back up to the previous high or down to the previous breakout level without finding too much resistance either way. The MACD, as we talked about at the end of the week, was starting to look a little fatigued and definitely did roll over to the downside. So we do have a negative condition now in the MACD. NASDAQ futures again, just consolidating sideways here. Wasn't quite an inside day. They did close above the open, which is a small positive. Use the 8 ace level for support at 37.50, so that's definitely going to be a key level for this week, especially with options expiration coming up, which is going to be the probably the focal point unless something big happens geopolitically for trading. So keep in mind, 8 ace level, very important. This is a quadruple witching, so we're going to be releasing the options on the equities futures and also the options on the futures. So this is a big one here. So 8 ace level 37.50 is certainly big. The high water mark is going to be the resistance area to watch at about 3800, 3804, somewhere in that area. So right in that area is really where the market needs to do its work. And if we break out of that area either way, we got to really take note. The TLTs today were a little bit higher on the day, pushing up just a little bit. All right, the TLT chart doesn't want to load, so I'll go on to the QMs. These are the mini oil futures. We did break out above the triple top, 1, 2, 3 here, pushed back up into the overbought territory of the GAN box. So now we're starting to feel the effects of that. Can't really get higher without consolidating further. So the 8 ace level at 106.25 is going to be key support. If we do break down below that, the 10 EMA is right in the area of the previous high. So that's going to be an kind of a double level, a more important level than it usually is. Usually the 10 EMA is important for a day or two, but this is going to be a little bit more important than that. So keep an eye on this on the 8 ace level at 106.25 on the downside, and then 105 and about 3 ace below that. The other thing to watch is if we do continue higher, 109 and 3 ace is going to come into play here at the plus 2 ace level. Gold futures today didn't do too much, kind of just grinding here, still below the 50 period moving average, which we've been below for some time. MACD is positive, but not yet above the zero line, so we don't have that momentum developing just yet. So keep an eye on this. If we do break above the 200 and the 50, which is right there, this could be a really easy trip to this 4 ace level at about 13.12 and a half. And if we do start to roll back up here, that's going to be a pretty notable development. And while that's happening, we'll probably wind up getting above the zero line on the MACD. If we roll to the downside, key support here at 1250 at the 0 ace level. Now, as far as individual sectors go today, we kind of took a rest here in the gold market. But the important thing is what's really happening in the late cycle stuff. We had a little bit of a downturn in the oil services and also the transports. They were both a little bit negative on the day. The the BKX, the banking index, was really pretty negative today. So unfortunately, we didn't see the slack picked up by the late cycle stuff too much. So just want to make sure that the late cycle stuff, the transports and the oil services don't roll down too much tomorrow. So just want to make sure that there's some leadership out there. It's all about leadership at this point in the market. Here's a look at our 10-day trend, which is essentially an overbought, oversold oscillator. You can see that we didn't get to that 0.85 overbought threshold, and we're actually starting to rebound back to the upside here a little bit. Still very close to that 0.85 level. We've got a couple of things in here that could still record that lower reading that we need to get that climactic overbought a threshold reading of 0.85. So we're close. Probably needs to happen in the next few days before we start losing some of those really low readings that are in the 10-day average. But if that does happen on a retest of the high, that's going to be a pretty important development, and also make up the breakout of the old high very unlikely. That's going to follow through. So we'll have to see what happens here. Here's a look at the SOX versus the NDX. This is the weekly chart. This is starting to shape up here a little bit, starting to see some more strength in favor of the semiconductors, the SOX. So this is actually pretty positive for the Nasdaq. Need to see the SOX continue here. We had a big pop in Intel INTC last week, so if that can continue and have a little spillover effect, that'll be very positive for the overall NDX. Note the trading band here. We've gotten back above this prior breakdown area, which was this high here, so it's a double level. Worked well in here. Big decline. Back up to that area where it was rejected. Pulled back up here and used it for support, and pivoting back up above that now. So if we can take out this level, this previous high, that's going to be a real notable development with strength in favor of the semiconductors. So definitely keep an eye on SanDisk, Micron, that's SNDK, and MU Micron. Those are definitely in play and starting to really show some leadership here. These charts are very extended, but extended charts, as we all know, can get much more extended than they are at any given point in time. So continue to take a look at these, both for continuations and for signs of fatigue. All right, and here's a look finally of our sector watch list. Utilities with a top gun on the day by a big margin. Computer hardware was also pretty strong. Semiconductors up near the top. The BTK actually really outperformed. So there was a lot of underlying weakness in some of these secondary and tertiary NASDAQ names, which is something to keep in mind. The oil services were a little bit weak, but not too bad. The transports were somewhat weak. The airlines continue lower and are the ones to really watch here. Starting to roll over here with these higher energy prices. Didn't really have a decisive breakdown today, but we're coming up into a key area. All right, we're going to conclude today's preview with the XAL chart. This is the airline index, kind of one of the subcomponents of the overall transport index. Definitely economically sensitive, but also more sensitive to fuel prices than the broad-based transports like the rails and the other shippers. So we've hit this 8-ace level and started to return back to the downside here. A 2-ace reflection to the downside, or a reflex, is pretty normal. So that'll be back in the 6/8 area. That's also a very important level because we've got the 50-period moving average and also the static trend line. See this red line here? How it's doubled up? That's 1 through 9. That's your startup phase here in the Seeker startup, in the Seeker countdown. So this is a really key area. 81.25. If this gets lost, that's really going to change the complexion. Also note that we closed here today right at this high and also right in the area of the previous high. So this is a real important area here. So we could see, if there's any kind of a pullback in energy prices, we see a little bounce back up in the airlines here, and perhaps make a little bit of a B-wave move to the upside. So we've had an extended move to the upside, a notable break to the downside. That's your A wave. The B wave would be the bounce. That would be somewhat of a retest of the old high. It doesn't have to go all the way up to the old high, but just somewhat of a retest and kind of a probing of the previous high. So definitely be prepared for that. All right, folks. As always, thanks for listening. This has been Rich for Tradesight.